Salutations everyone, this is Brazier bringing you guys another Overwatch 2 video where today we're going to see some Ana gameplay, some support gameplay here from the second beta with the old Junker Queen. She was, you know, I didn't get to play her a lot because of the queue times in the second beta for tank was like 20 minutes just because of her inclusion. So I didn't get to play a lot of her, but we definitely saw plenty of her in the last stage of the Overwatch League, but here I am as Ana as I get the commanding shout buff. This Bastion is going to be lucky to stay alive, and he gets cleaned up there by the DPS. So as it mainly a support player in Overwatch 1, you know, I was a flex player, so that means I had to play tank or support every single game. Pretty much, unless I was, you know, in Mystery Heroes, in which case, you know, he had more than a 50-50 chance to get a DPS. So I mainly liked playing healer just because of tank was at times a bit boring, especially on main tank. I did love playing as D.Va, and you know, some main tank gameplay was fun. Like even when I was like crushing it, you know, like I'm going like 33-2 on Orisa or something, it didn't feel engaging all the time, right? It still feel good, but like not as good as it feels when you're dominating on other roles, right? And I feel like that's one of the best things that Overwatch 2 brings to the table with the 5v5 and the balance changes that they've made. Everything feels more rewarding. Everything feels more impactful. Especially from the support side of things, because I feel like support was the not that it was the least important role. It just felt like the least impactful role, you know, at times. Obviously, tank was the most important role, so you do have the biggest impact, and DPS had opportunities to carry, or at very least stop the enemy from, you know, making big plays, which is what I love about being D.Va, is that, like, I could stop the enemy DPS from really carrying a game. A soldier couldn't take high ground because I actually stopped him, you know. A flying enemy couldn't really just blow us up because I was stopping her, or their supports were getting harassed by me because I knew when and where to make those moves. But in Overwatch 2, everything feels more impactful, and that's, I think, most easily seen through the eyes of support, because I've felt so many times where it's like I'm doing what I can, but our main tank's throwing, or we don't have a main tank. We have Roadhog Ball or Roadhog Zarya, or, you know, whatever it may be, right? And that was always really frustrating. It's like, well, I feel like I can't do anything, right? I can't contribute to this fight. And also on the flip side, I could be like, man, I'm killing it. I'm crushing it. I'm doing so well. I'm supporting my tanks so much. I'm hitting my sleep darts and my antis, or I'm getting those big mid-tempo reses, or I'm not dying as Lucio and I'm speed boosting at the right time, but my teammates are just throwing, right? They're not stopping that soldier on high ground, or that McCree that keeps flanking us for free with his big clanky boots, and you're like, how do you guys not see him? Like, I'm a support, there's only so much that I can do. I can hit the sleep and then tell you guys about it, and you still do nothing. That's one of the good things about Overwatch 2 with the ping system. Is so great because you don't have to worry about, are people in comms, are people going to listen to comms, are people going to understand the comm, because you ping, it's in game, they get the ping notification, the character voice line. And I saw even in the beta, right, you're not going to be nearly as coordinated in the beta as you will be in prime time when the game finally comes out. I still had people following up on my sleep darts pretty well in the beta, which was very encouraging. I thought the ping system had a lot to do with that, and that's going to be really, really good. But the support passive is great. I don't know if DPS needs a passive. I feel like they've always been super duper strong, and they don't need to be stronger. And they've kind of been fiddling. It's like, oh, they give them the speed, but like that was too strong. And then they gave them the ult charge return, and then like, well, let's just make that universal, right? And then they give them this reload buff. It's like, DPS are fine, okay? I don't think they need to be buffed. They're already the strongest freaking things out there. You can understand like the CC passive resistance to tanks for like Overwatch 1. It's not needed nearly as much in Overwatch 2, but you can see as a solo tank why you would really want to mitigate that. But as a support, that passive makes a huge difference, because no longer do I have to worry about my teammate paying attention and healing me, having to get to a health pack, or using a cooldown on myself. Those are three things I don't have to worry about. I can just let the passive kick in. Get into the right angle, not be pressured. You know, it could be at the end of the fight where it's like my support partner died and I'm at like 20 health, and it's like, well, shoot, their respawns are about to come back and my healer isn't here and there's no support packs near me. Don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about, it's like, hey, I'm supporting the tank while you're pocketing a DPS or something, or you're trying to do Moira backline shenanigans. Like, I need heals as your healer companion. I don't have to worry about that. And harkening back to my first point, is I can feel the impact a lot more from these games in the beta. I could feel playing support, which I still did most of the time because it was this, you know, as always, the shortest queue time for any stage of that beta. It felt more rewarding, and like there wasn't a lot of changes to a lot of the supports, right? Most of the changes were obviously, you know, all the tanks had to have changes. Orisa got an entire rework, like every single thing about her changed except their hurt box, right? And Doomfist got changed from a DPS to a tank, and then we had Sojourn absolutely wrecking it, being like, I would say like maybe the poster child of Overwatch 2, because she has everything you could want, right? But obviously there's going to be no cover character for Overwatch 2 because it's a digital only release. It's not going to have physical copies, so we have to like who's the best representative or anything like that. She just feels like that's everything you want, because she has mobility, she has burst damage, she has consistent rapid fire damage, she has a strong ultimate, stuff like that. We didn't have a lot of new toys to play with as a support. Like, we got the Zenyatta kick, right? After that first beta, it was like, we got the Zenyatta kick, and that was really pretty much it. But like, Lucio felt really good, especially on those push game modes, and we saw Ana get value in the first two stages of Overwatch League, and then the third stage where Joker Queen was kind of, you know, worst case scenario where there was a de facto best tank in every situation on every map for every comp. And thankfully we don't have to worry about, at least at the highest level anymore. Probably wouldn't have had to worry about that, just like we didn't really have to worry about goats back in the day at lower levels, because, you know, it required coordination and using cooldowns properly to actually get the value out of that. But I can tell you, playing as especially Ana, she is my my most played support. She is my most played character in Overwatch 1. I got so much value out of playing her. I go 30-7 in this game here, on defense, in the streets of Jerry-O, London, right? So I felt that impact like consistently, regardless of the game mode or the comp, and it is nice that now with Overwatch 2, we don't really have to worry about our comps nearly as much, because it's 5v5, because things are less centered around getting as much defenses together as possible or as much healing together as possible. We have one less tank, so we only have to worry about keeping one tank up. At the same time, we don't have to worry about getting attacked by a secondary tank or ulted by a secondary tank. And you would think with there only being one tank on your team to heal, your healing output would be less than in Overwatch 1. But actually it's not. It's pretty much the same. And I think the skirmishy type of fighting definitely behooves keeping your head on a swivel, and all of the supports can sort of get to that play style. We're not going to be bunkering with Baptiste anymore, but I definitely feel like he does have his role. He can still be utilized to his strengths. But Mercy, she can fly around everywhere. She doesn't worry about solo healing a tank or just pocketing a DPS. She can kind of fly around and do what she wants. Our tanks are a little bit more free to take certain encounters depending on what that tank matchup looks like, right? And I had quite a few games where I'm playing Ana, right? And I'm keeping my support up. I'm, you know, helping out the Genjis, because, you know, Genjis are everywhere, and they're not the easiest character out there to heal. And Ana is one of the best at doing that. And I had messages from people in our chat being like, man, our Ana's amazing. Like, I got that a lot. I got that a lot. And it's a beta, you know, not everyone's going to feel like talking or things like that. Obviously, there wasn't nearly as much toxicity when, you know, the game's not out yet, of course. or people looking to be you know, synergistic and communicate and things like that, because it's just the beta. These stats don't matter. I don't matter. We're trying out new things and stuff like that. I still got quite a few messages being like, yo, Ana, what's your rank in Overwatch 1? And I'll be like, you know, just a diamond player, yeah, at best, or, you know, a platinum player at worst. And they're like, nah, you're lying. You gotta be at least masters. And it feels good too, because like, it's not like I was playing super better than I usually do. It's just that my impact was being felt and it was being appreciated. And in Overwatch 2 is good for that as well. With the scoreboard and with the 5v5, you can kind of just get a better feel and a better grasp for how the fights are engaging, how they're developing, and what's going wrong or what's going right. We can take a look at, you know, all the stats that we have. We don't have to worry about like, oh, I got gold this and silver that. You can match yourself to what the enemy is doing. You can see what the enemy heal stats are as well. So if you know that there's a support diff or a tank diff, be like, man, our tank is 20-1 and their tank is 16-4, right? Clearly there's an advantage here that we can definitely exploit, that maybe a lot of people might not have an easy time handling without that data before them. And it can also be a good thing for DPS. We're seeing like, okay, we aren't actually getting as much value off of this pick than they are on their Sombra, who's traditionally not going to get nearly as much damage or something like that as I'm healing up a Sombra. But I do like the new scoreboard, and we're going to get a lot more intel and data that can help drive us to see where we may be weak. And seeing the enemy scoreboard as well is also really helpful to be like, what is happening in this matchup? And with a 5v5, there being less chaos, sort of the win cons are a lot more clear. Whereas in Overwatch 1, it's like, guys, we're letting Mercy res for free every 30 seconds. That's why we're losing, as our Mercy gets a res. But, like, that's why we're losing. Nobody is stopping this Mercy from hard carrying the enemy team. Like, their tanks aren't as good as our tanks, or they only have one good TPS, where both of ours aren't throwing, and one of theirs is hard throwing, but the other is kind of, like, picking up the slack. But the only difference is their Mercy keeps getting those reses, right? But not everybody notices these things in the chaos of a 6v6 match, with a lot more ultimates popping off, and 2 tanks having to heal, and 2 tanks you're having to attack and worry about. Things are a lot more clear and delineated. With there being only 1 tank, it's boom or bust, right? You lose your tank, you're losing that fight. That was usually the case in Overwatch 1 as well with the main tank, if you're both playing main tanks and you're both playing competently. But other than that, sometimes it was a lot more difficult for people to sort of understand what the win con is. And with it only being 1 tank versus 1 tank, we know it's like, all right, their tank is getting more heals than our tank, because that's why we're losing. Or they're just all sitting up on this high ground and we're not stopping it. Or they have a Sombra and that just kills our Zen over and over and over again. You know, maybe the Zen needs to switch, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just not getting any help. It's not necessarily a Zen's fault. It's the Sombra's fault for being really good and finding something to exploit, and that's a team not peeling and supporting the Zen when they need it, right? So with the 5v5 and the new scoreboard, I feel like it's so much clearer to people that might have not noticed beforehand in Overwatch 1. What's the win con? What's actually happening, instead of, I got gold limbs, I got gold damage, guys. Why do I have gold heals? Blah, blah, blah. Ha, ha, ha. I thought we had a blah, blah, blah on our team. They should switch. They suck. None of that language is ever going to help. And especially with the new anti-toxicity things that we have going into the game, and the anti-smurfing that we have, that a lot of people are worried about. Oh no, new players this, new players that. It's like, you're not a new player. Why are you worried about that? You don't have to experience what it's like to be a new player because you're not a new player. And it's a great thing implemented to stop Smurf accounts, because they're not going to get this character that, you know, they're not going to be able to. Obviously, Doomfist is now a tank, but we all experienced Doomfist Smurfs, because that's the easiest character to just like solo carry with if you're just better than everyone else on the enemy team. So we all experience that. That's stuff we don't have to worry about nearly much in Overwatch 2, because we have way more tools, and, you know, Blizzard gave us way more tools to combat with that passively and actively with the new report system and AI learning and all that stuff, which is, calm down, guys. It's not new. A bunch of other games do it. This is the standard. This is how things are done. And it was also implemented in Overwatch 1 as well. You just didn't notice because they didn't tell you about it. But now that everyone knows sort of all the things that are in place, things will hopefully be a much more healthier, everything will be a healthier lobby. We got rid of that general chat. Don't know why that existed in the first place. But things are going to be better for every role. Obviously, your tank is going to always be your most important role, so you might be limited depending on what the map geometry looks like and what the enemy is running. But as far as DPS, and I mean, not that DPS ever had this problem, but you know, they still get to have the benefit, as well as especially the support. We can kind of play what we want when we want because it will work. The gameplay systems that we have for us right now enables that. Whether it was super intended or not, obviously that was, you know, something that the team would want, is for people to have more fun and feel more impact and more agency in their games. That's what happened. That's absolutely what happened. And I think that's the most exciting thing for me going into Overwatch 2, is I can play the game more like how I want to, and when I'm doing well, the team will reflect that. I'll have a lot less games where I'm going 30-4 and we get destroyed just because there was a thrower or two on my team. That can happen and will happen, especially if people are picking Roadhog as your only tank. But the impact is going to be a lot better, and you're going to get appreciated a little bit more.